Hello, my name is Danny Powell, and I'm president of the Heartland Song Network. Our mission is to elevate the art of the song through education, collaboration, and mentorship. Each month, we highlight one of our members as Artist of the Month. This month's Artist of the Month is Michael McClintock. Michael is a world-class guitar player and a master of the Cuban Tress. I recently sat down with Michael to discover his music and to find out about how a young man from Neosho, Missouri ends up playing and the featured artist at the Jazz Plaza International Festival in Havana, Cuba. Please join me and enjoy this conversation with Michael McClintock. Well, Michael, thank you for being here this evening for this interview. We are very honored to have you as our Artist of the Month.
It's an honor to be the Artist of the Month, so thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
it's great. I'd first like to find out, a little bit about your music DNA. I mean, what kind of got you started in the music as a young person, and how that all progressed.
Sure. My Uncle Mark taught me how to play the guitar in 8th grade. I think I was 13 years old, 13 or 14. He knows. He writes everything down. He's very organized, but I had tried all the obligatory sports and failed miserably at everything: soccer, football, baseball, basketball, you name it. And about that point in time, he was like, well, what do you think about learning how to play the guitar? And I was like, let's give it a shot. And it stuck. So he taught me, and then I was with him through the majority of high school. And then I hooked up with a gentleman named Joe Leiter, and I studied classical guitar with him. And then I tried out for the conservatory here at UMKC in 2002 and got in and did 4 years of undergraduate classical guitar performance with Doug Meat.
I see.
Yeah, and finished in 2006 then.
So was your uncle in a band? I mean, was he a songwriter? Was he just good?
He was in a band. He had a group. I believe they were called the Rectifiers. And he lived in Berkeley, California for a period of time and did some studies out there as well. And then he moved back to Neosho, Missouri, which is where we're all from. And he started working at Walmart at that time and was just played in church and things like that. But loved to compose. I'm not sure. He's written hundreds of songs over the years.
That's great. That's great.
And he was super, talented, well-rounded. He introduced me to rock and roll and blues. Taught me how to play a little bit of slide guitar, and then he even taught me some fingerstyle and a really light introduction to flamenco guitar. And I remember the guitar company Taylor Guitars. They would always bring these kind of heavy-hitting fingerstyle guys through Joplin, Missouri, and they would play in one of the hotels up there. And I remember seeing Doyle Dykes and a guy named Stephen King, and that was kind of my first introduction to fingerstyle. And these guys would play like really heavy Beatles arrangements or like Amazing Grace, and it was kind of a Tommy Emmanuel-esque, Chet Atkins kind of vibe. And I was like, whoa. So now he really worked hard to keep me engaged, taught me how to read music, taught me a really light introduction to jazz. And I was able to play in big band in high school, just kind of bang out chords. Nothing too fancy. But yeah, he was great.
Yeah. So how was your UMKC experience here? I mean, as far as the conservatory?
I needed it. I really enjoyed it. I was pretty sloppy throughout high school. I wasn't a terrible student, but focused I was not. So UMKC, something clicked, and I really was trying to get anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 hours of practice a day. And studying music was great because it was one of the few things that really made sense. And I don't remember but my finishing GPA was pretty good. It was 3.7, somewhere in there. And everything really just made sense, from music history to theory to ear training. It all clicked, and so I enjoyed it. I was very happy to get accepted. I liked it.
Very good, very good. So after that, I was kind of reading your bio. You kind of went into kind of a jazz thing for a while, and
real quick, I went into a heavier study of flamenco through Bo Bledsoe. And then from there, I started playing a lot of Brazilian music, which was kind of a natural step towards jazz. And then I studied with Rod Fleeman and Danny Embry for a little while privately, and then I also studied with a gentleman named Matt Otto, who's teaches saxophone at KU. He's super phenomenal teacher. So yeah, a little flamenco. Bo introduced me to a little bit of Argentine tango, and then a lot of Brazilian music and some light jazz.
So what? Tell us about the fact that this Brazilian music and that whole Latin vibe, how that, I mean, catches you, because obviously you do a lot of that now. So
yeah, I think it's about the rhythms for me. It's got a really nice syncopated groove built into pretty much everything that they do in Brazil and Cuba, and it just, I don't know, I really enjoy it, and it kind of came naturally a little bit too. I never had to really hunker down and focus super deeply on rhythm, and so I feel lucky to have, I think, a base level decent rhythm. And Brazilian music really lent itself to classical guitar because the technique is very similar. It's a right hand finger style heavy thing, and so through all of the chords and stuff I learned in high school playing in big band, they also translated a little bit to Brazilian jazz, like bossa nova and samba. So I think a lot of those ingredients kind of really started getting mixed together once I started playing Brazilian music. And then I was learning how to improvise on a more sophisticated way at that time. And I really wish I was, had the mental capacity to get into that younger, because it's pretty complicated to think over all those cool chord changes, but it's getting a little bit better now. It's slowly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's really a interesting evolution to read about. Your evolution, and then you kind of evolved out of that jazz, and then the first time I saw Cubanisms was at the Record Bar several years ago.
Yeah.
Played there, and I was just like overwhelmed, because as you know, I'm just a huge fan of that country, and I was like, man, I've got to go listen to this. So.
Yeah, and thankfully for all those influences, they kind of culminated when I went to Cuba and started learning how to play that tres cubano. I mean, having some of the believe it or not, the flamenco technique, the right hand stuff they do with their thumb, transferred almost exactly over to how the treseros, the Cuban tres players, play with the pick. And so I was like, okay, so it's like, even if it's from completely different parts of the world, they all gently overlap.
I mean, I'm fascinated the fact of a young lad from Neosho, Missouri, ends up in Havana, Cuba.
Yeah.
And when I was down there year and a half ago during January, I mentioned your name at a couple places with people out playing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Michael McClintock. Oh yeah." And I was like, "Oh man, this is very cool."
Man, luck is an interesting thing. Luck and preparation are very beautiful things.
Yeah.
But I got really lucky. Well, first of all, meeting my wife, and then the proximity of living next to my first trace teacher, which was the premier teacher on the island. He teaches at the Institute for the Superior Arts, which is like their Juilliard in Havana. And so I'd gotten in touch with a gentleman from the United States who also married a Cuban woman and learned the instrument. And he gave me like 3 people to call, and the first person was out of town, and so the second person was Efrain, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I just live up the street." He just happened to be like, the Bobby Watson of the the thing, and so I was like, okay, cool. So I'd walk up to his house 2-3 times, and it all just kind of evolved from there. But having all those outside techniques, being a little acquainted with some Brazilian syncopation, those things really helped, and so that eased a lot of the Cubans immediately. They were like, oh, you kind of speak this, you speak a portion of this language, so
So you had to go through kind of an acceptance down there too, musically, that you could do, that you could hang.
Yeah, but they're insanely open. I mean, it's just like I said, going back to getting really lucky. I met Efrain, and he gave me all the tools. He was a phenomenal teacher as far as, like, you know, the technique, put it together, do it like this, and then randomly walking through Old Havana. I was walking around with a trace on my shoulder, and some gentleman called me over to sit in with them, and I sat in with them, and then we were walking a little bit further, you know, down the line as you do there, and went into a bar called Cafe Paris, I believe, and they were just like, oh, look, you know, look at this interesting looking guy with a tres cubano, and I said, come up, you know, because they're working all the time, and so I think it's, you know, it's part of their nature to be super open, but they're also working super hard. So I think anytime they see somebody that's like, well, I'll sit in and absorb some time, they're like, yeah, come up.
Yeah, my experience here, the people were just, I mean, just magnificent. Yeah. You know, I just really enjoyed being there.
That makes learning a lot easier when there's that openness, and they're not, you know, like, that's wrong. So they were always very gentle.
Yeah. So how did the evolution of Cubanisms, I mean, and bringing in those players, you know, because there really wasn't much like that around here prior to that, you know.
No, we'd had Son Venezuela. They were definitely like the old guard of like the heavy hitting salsa and merengue things, but you know, the tres cubano is not the most popular instrument in the world, and so I was really drawn to Cuban son, and so I was, you know, obviously into the Buena Vista Social Club, which is a pretty old school style of Cuban music, but that was the, you know, the first part of it, and through playing some Brazilian music, I had known Bruno Bessa, who is from Brazil but is a phenomenal Spanish speaker. And then from working with Bo Bledsoe, I had met Phaedra Cooper Barrera, who's from Mexico, so obviously she speaks Spanish and has a super powerful voice. And then I just kind of knew everybody, and our percussionist John Curry, I've known for a long time. He's got a marimba group, and his wife is Mexican, so he's pretty well versed and speaks Spanish. So it kind of made sense. There was, you know, the right ingredients around, and everybody's highly intelligent. So I was like, hey, listen to this stuff. So, you know, do you enjoy it? Can we put it together? And it really came together. You just got to book a gig, you know, and bought a PA and went for it.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's fantastic. I've enjoyed it every time I've been out to hear it. I'm hoping we can get going again so we can hear some more of it.
Yeah, I miss it because now we're up to 8 people, and that's like that's like 4 too many to stick in a space right now, and it's so, you know, let's get together and dance, and it's, you know, not necessarily sit with our masks quietly. We can, but we play better when the audience is moving and grooving.
So how did you and Khalid meet? What was that all about? How's that?
Well, that's a good story. I met Dalida in 2013 in Havana, and I went with a friend of mine named Gerardo Rendon. I was studying Spanish. I was wanting to brush up, and he was a super inviting person, and I said, yeah, come on over and we'll do Spanish lessons. And so I was doing Spanish lessons with him and a friend of mine who I used to play a lot of music with named Jared Stevenson, and just being around, you know, other friends that had always traveled all over the place. I'd never been out of the country. Canada when I was like 10 for an hour or two. I didn't count. And I had the itch. Let's go somewhere, anywhere. And he was like, well, I'm gonna go to Havana. You want to go? And I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And he had known Dalida from some previous trips to Havana, because he'd gone a lot, because his stepfather was Cuban. So he was really interested, and we met. It was very slow and low. Everybody's like, was it love at first sight? No, it wasn't, but I was there for 3 weeks, and I just kind of kept bothering her to show me around. But she was lovely. She showed me around, and she worked for the Ministry of Culture, and so she was really well versed with the city and the scene. And so our first night, she took me to quite a few different clubs and the Hotel Nacional, and just really went out of her way to show me around. And then the following night, we all went out as a group and went salsa dancing. I watched, and that was great. And was blown away by how the Cubans could just move a
Yeah.
whole room. I'd never seen a whole room of people move like that. Just like stunning, you know,
Yeah.
stunning. Just amazing. I always envisioned like 1940s big band swing era,
Right.
back when, you know, the culture of dance was a lot stronger in the United States.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it was like that. But no, it was just slow.
Yeah.
And then the final week, we were strictly in Havana because we had traveled around to Baradero and Viñales and some other places. And so that last week, I was pretty much solo, and so I was bugging her more and more. And so we would go to the National Hotel, the Hotel Nacional, pretty much every night and drink mojitos and just talk
Right.
and hit it off. It was the easiest
Yeah.
conversation ever. And so the last couple of days, I may or may not have gotten really drunk at a party and made a move. I don't know. So.
Well, it turned out great.
It did. It turned out very, very well. Yeah.
So what have you got going on now? What's your what's happening with Michael McClintock?
Well, I have been composing some original material and recording. At the very tail end of last year, Cubanisms recorded our second album called Trilingual, and have unfortunately kind of just had to sit on it because after that, my wife and I went to Cuba for a big portion of the winter, came back, did a handful of gigs, and then boom, COVID. And so we've been kind of sitting on that, and then in the meantime, I've been recording at home. Gotten into a lot of home recording, and I've recorded 5 original songs, kind of ranging from like a modern classical vibe to a full-on Cuban son salsa. I've got a samba I've composed in honor of my grandpa, but the first song is going to be released on October 2nd. It's called Waiting for You, in honor of my wife. I wrote it for her a few years ago. So yeah, and she's been very encouraging of composing, you know, original stuff. So that's been pretty much the deal this year. And then we've been moving into original material with Cubanisms as well. We've got 3 completely done that need to be recorded as soon as possible, and then I've got 2 others that are pretty much finished. And then my wife has been lovely, and she writes lyrics for that, and awesome. I do the music. So that's the plan for that, is just to kind of start moving into original material with Cubanisms and just keep trying to compose as much as possible. The one that I've also been working with Jeff Fralin, which has been pretty cool. We've got a new group called the FM Duo, and with that we've been able to do some of my original compositions. So that's been really cool. It's a new thing. I haven't done that much before in my life.
We saw you at the Green Guitar. You and Jeff performed that.
That's right. That was a while back.
It was wonderful. Yeah, it was wonderful. And I thought then, man, these guys they're gonna do something together at some point.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. No, that's been really cool. Super organic. And we had quite a few things planned for this year, but everything kind of had to take a step back. But yeah, it hasn't stopped us too much. So we're cruising along.
Yeah, I mean, COVID has affected everybody. I mean, have you been able to maintain okay and just, you know? And
we have. I can't complain. My wife and I can't complain. We were very fortunate to get the government checks that everybody got, but we were able to get the unemployment with the government. So that ran out, but then the extra 300 came in. So I've been watching more news than I care to watch.
Yeah,
but no, we were able to both get that, and that's been
very good. Very good. Well, as you know, the Heartland Song Network, we're all about elevating the art of the song, you know, and we're doing a lot of things, and we always want to ask what from the people we interview, what do you think we need to do? I mean, what's your thoughts on how we need to help elevate artists and the industry, the ecosystem of music around here, you know? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, but it's important to us because we, you know, that is what we want to do. That is our mission.
Right. Here's where editing comes into play. I might have to think about that for a second, because what you guys have been doing has been fantastic. Just the Zoom, the Wednesday Zooms alone, I've been able to attend to. The first lady had moved in from LA. I've forgotten her name. I apologize.
Yeah.
But she does a lot of
Claire Marlowe.
commercial spot. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was just refreshing to hear her talk about her time in LA, and then just her mentioning like, oh yeah, like Sony or this gigantic company that for me I'm like, oh wow, it's big, just even having somebody come and talk about whatever in that realm for me is very cool. And then the other gentleman was the Nashville songwriter, who I think that was a couple of weeks ago.
Odie,
yeah, he was great. He was great as well. I think that's a tremendous first step, but it's just all, it's just industry based,
right?
And it's kind of tricky to start that industry. But I think you guys are definitely taking the right steps. I feel like between Claire and Odie, and I'm sure a bunch of the other people that y'all have spoken to, I mean, just forming some kind of local industry. Obviously, you've got New York, Nashville,
and
LA.
we're hoping. One of our goals is to be able to connect the dots.
Exactly.
Because there's so many genres and so many world-class musicians, and we don't even know what industry's here.
You know what I mean?
And
because there could be something right under our nose that we don't know. But no, Kansas City's got it going on.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you got country, blues, rock. We've got the Latin, we've got jazz. I mean, it's super well-rounded, very diverse, and highly intelligent town that is accessible and everybody's friendly. Like everybody's open to share, and I think, like you said, connecting the dots. Speaking, New York, Nashville, LA, but also connecting the dots, just Kansas City.
Locally,
because I know you've talked to Pat Conway and some other folks, and I couldn't even tell you what's out there in Kansas City right now, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but at the same time, it's like.
But that's everybody.
That's everybody, right?
Yeah,
it's everybody. So I think just keep doing what y'all are doing. It's very exciting because I don't want to leave Kansas City. I mean, because we've got people coming in from LA and New York that are brilliant musicians, and they're just like it's expensive, it's difficult, and so they're coming in.
Right.
That caliber's coming in. Then I hesitate to think about maybe going out.
Right. Yeah.
So but just more of that, and then some kind of recording network. Because Kansas City is a beautiful place to do performances. I've heard talk of having maybe some mid-sized venues would be beneficial, maybe like that 400 range, 400 to 600 person range. But then I always just kind of feel like the industries are built around the record labels, and but even that's changing.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
But you don't even make an album anymore.
Right.
It's just
right.
And so I mean, it's really tricky to comment, to have an opinion, because every day, my wife and I are kind of trying to read different articles about how do we release a single. It's like, because I was nervous and trying to work hard to record an entire album, and then you just kind of realize it's like that model's not in right now, and I don't even know if I'm going to print any CDs.
Right.
I think it's just going to be straight digital.
Yeah, I've seen that more and more myself, that people they'll put a lot in the can, but they're releasing a single at a time over 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, it's just those little touches. I think everybody wants to be refreshed frequently. It's like your computer,
Well, and this COVID situation has changed the industry. I mean, it in some positive ways it has tore down the existing structure.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to be involved in helping making it better.
Yeah.
I mean, we want our artists to be able to stay here, make a living here.
Totally.
So we can enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And
it's extremely doable. Kansas City is such a great spot. I mean, to even buy a home. I mean, those things that I won't speak for any other musician, but as myself, didn't think about that stuff in depth when I was in college, or even out of college, or even until my late 20s. But then you know, luckily Kansas City was friendly financially, and I was like, oh, I can actually do this and spend less in rent. You can actually buy a house and spend less.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, okay. So no, and
Yeah.
those little things are really attractive to artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kansas City's sweet. I don't know why we couldn't be any different than Nashville.
Yeah.
I was in Nashville a couple of years ago, and it's not the biggest town.
No.
Kansas City's bigger.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they have this phenomenal. I mean, obviously, decades of industry built, but
but it's very hierarchical. It's a hierarchy, you know, of industry, and we want something that's more eco-friendly.
Kansas City style.
Yeah.
Kansas City open style. Arms. No,
yeah.
and that if that could be achieved, then I think y'all will have tons of success because you start getting into that who knows who and all that, and it immediately becomes difficult.
Right.
So no, just keep doing what you're doing, and then just daily telling everybody to hit the share button.
Yeah.
You know, just it's every day.
Yeah.
It's a grind, but I feel like it's just it's a little cute video every day. You know, hit it and but it's so cool. And just the Zoom meetings. I go back to that for the third time. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You got anything to add you want to share, or anything that we cover all the bases? And
I think we covered. That's pretty thorough. Well done.
Okay.
You know, anything missing from that? No. We talked about what's going on now.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
That's what's up.
Okay.
That's what's
Well,
up.
thank you very much. And we are, like I said, we're honored to have you as our artist of the month.
It's a major honor for me. So I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.